Set the screen. Back to Boston. Mismatch against Aliyah Gray, and she buried it. Biggest lead of the night, and it's taken away by who else? Mitchell. Lexi Hull buried it to beat the buzzer. The flourish at the end of the third quarter for Indiana in a game they have to win, and they're up 15.
Game 3, baby, game 3. See you in Atlanta. Not done yet.
One more.
Jump in the chat, baby. Come on, come on.
Need that.
One more game, baby, one more game.
It wasn't just the box score that told the story. It wasn't the 77-60 final, the wire-to-wire dominance, or the fact that the Indiana Fever, after nearly a decade of postseason irrelevance, finally tasted victory on their home floor. The real story came later, in the quiet moments after the roar of the crowd had faded, when Aliyah Boston stepped up to the microphone. What she said wasn't just a recap of a basketball game, it was a reckoning. It was the unfiltered truth of a team that had been pushed to the brink, a team that felt robbed, a team that had every excuse to fold but instead chose to fight. She didn't hold back, because holding back was no longer an option. The league, the officials, and the Atlanta Dream had all witnessed a masterclass in defense, but Boston's words were a masterclass in defiance. She laid bare the heart of a franchise reborn in the fires of adversity, and what she revealed sent a shockwave of belief through a city starved for a winner. This wasn't just about tying a playoff series. This was about a team finding its soul when it mattered most. To understand the explosion that was Game 2, you have to understand the silence that preceded it. It was a heavy, simmering silence born from the raw frustration of Game 1 in Atlanta. Fans didn't just feel disappointed, they felt cheated. They had watched a game where every 50-50 call seemed to go one way, where the whistle felt more like a weapon than a tool of impartiality. Social media was a wildfire of disbelief, with fans and analysts alike using words like robbery to describe the final moments. The feeling was that the Indiana Fever hadn't just been outplayed, they had been out-officiated, their best efforts nullified by a series of calls that tilted the floor and stole their momentum. One play in particular became the symbol of this collective outrage. Early in the game, Lexi Hull found herself defending Howard, one of the most explosive scorers in the league. As Howard drove, Lexi executed a textbook defensive sequence, backpedaling perfectly, keeping her hands straight up, avoiding contact as Howard went behind her back. It was the kind of disciplined, intelligent defense coaches dream of, and yet the whistle blew. A foul was called. It was a moment that felt so fundamentally wrong that it planted a seed of doubt. Could they even win if the game was going to be called like this? That single phantom foul became a rallying cry, a piece of undeniable evidence for a fan base that felt the deck was stacked against them. That frustration could have easily curdled into defeatism, especially when you consider the mountain of adversity standing in their way. It wasn't just the memory of a stolen game they had to carry into Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They had to carry the weight of a depleted roster. 5 players were out. 5. Not just role players, but key cogs in their machine. Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Chloe Bibby, and Ari McDonald were all sidelined. But the biggest absence, the one that hung over the franchise like a storm cloud, was Caitlyn Clark. Bavroser ruled out for the season. The generational talent who had rewritten the narrative for Indiana basketball could only watch from the bench. Her gravity, her playmaking, her sheer presence on the court, all of it was gone. The team that had been built around her singular talent was now forced to navigate the most important game in years without their North Star. Pundits wondered aloud if they had enough firepower, enough identity to survive. The pressure was immense, a perfect storm of perceived injustice and crippling injuries that would have broken a lesser team before the ball was even tipped. But head coach Stephanie White saw the situation differently. She didn't see a crisis, she saw an opportunity for a gut check. In her pre-game press conference, she didn't talk about the officials or the injuries. She talked about something deeper, something missing from their Game 1 performance. There's a certain desperation that has to come with how you play every possession, she stated, her voice calm but firm. I didn't feel like in game 1 we played with that desperate mentality that we needed. This wasn't just coach speak. This was a direct challenge. She was calling out the intangibles, the hustle for 50-50 balls, the grit to secure a defensive rebound, the relentless sense of urgency that separates good teams from great ones in the playoffs. She wasn't asking them to play better. She was demanding they play harder with a ferocity that left no room for doubt or controversy. "We didn't have that consistently for 40 minutes in game 1, she concluded. "I expect us to have it here tonight." It was a line drawn in the sand. She was telling her team and the world that the narrative of this series would not be written by the referees or the injury report. It would be written by their own will, by their own desperation. The fuse was lit. The question was whether the team would answer the call and create an explosion of their own. They didn't just answer the call, they shattered it. What unfolded on the court at Gainbridge Fieldhouse wasn't the chaotic, frantic play of a team on the edge of panic. It was the physical embodiment of Stephanie White's challenge. This was desperation refined into a diamond-hard edge of focus and execution. From the opening tip, the Indiana Fever played with a clarity of purpose that was almost startling. They scored on their first possession, a statement of intent. They defended with a disciplined fury, making every inch of the court a battleground for the Atlanta Dream. Before Atlanta could settle their nerves or find their rhythm, the game was already being played on Indiana's terms. The result was a spectacle of absolute control. For the first time in a playoff game since 2002, the Fever led from start to finish, wire to wire. No ties, no lead changes. For 40 relentless minutes, Indiana grabbed the game by the throat and never once loosened their grip. Think about the psychological weight of that achievement. After a game where they felt the outcome was wrested from their hands by outside forces, they delivered a performance so complete, so unambiguous, that it left no room for interpretation. They didn't just outscore the Dream, they erased the very possibility of controversy. They made the referees irrelevant, and in doing so, they took back their own destiny. The engine of this domination was a defensive performance that deserves to be studied. It was a suffocating, systematic dismantling of a potent Atlanta offense. The Dream, a team that relies heavily on their perimeter shooting to create space and opportunities, found themselves in a tactical straitjacket. Indiana's guards swarmed the three-point line, closing out with an intensity that turned open looks into contested heaves. The effect was immediate and devastating. In the first half, Atlanta shot a miserable 1-4-10 from beyond the arc. The well had run dry. Their spacing collapsed, their offensive set sputtered, and every possession became a desperate scramble against the shot clock. The numbers at the end of the night told the whole story of this defensive masterpiece. Atlanta finished a dismal 5-4-19 from deep and shot under 40% from the field overall. Indiana didn't just get stops, they imposed their will, turning a high-powered offense into a disjointed, inefficient mess. After the game, Coach White pinpointed exactly what made the difference. "Our aggressiveness, our attention to detail, our ability to contest without fouling," she explained. "To be disciplined in that area, I thought was huge. That discipline was the key." It was the manifestation of controlled desperation, a team playing on the edge of intensity without ever stepping over the line into recklessness. They had solved the puzzle that plagued them in Game 1, and the solution was simply to be tougher, smarter, and more relentless than their opponent for every single second they were on the floor. Fueling this on-court masterclass was an electrifying energy pulsating from the stands. Gainbridge Fieldhouse was more than just a home court. It was a cauldron of pent-up frustration and defiant hope. The fans arrived not just to watch a game, but to participate in an exorcism, to roar away the ghosts of Game 1. And every defensive stop, every forced turnover, every basket was met with a wave of sound that seemed to physically lift the Fever players while crashing down on the Dream. And there, on the sideline, was the silent conductor of this symphony of support, Caitlyn Clark. Though she couldn't contribute a single point or assist, her presence was a powerful, unifying force. Standing, clapping, living and dying with every possession, she was the bridge between the fans in the rafters and the warriors on the court. She was a constant, visible reminder of what this team was fighting for, not just for themselves, but for their injured superstar, for their city, and for the future she represents. Her energy was infectious, an extra gear for a team already playing at its peak, transforming the arena into an impenetrable fortress of belief. But a fortress needs soldiers, and on a night when their ranks were thinned, every single player stepped forward to answer the call. This victory wasn't authored by one hero, it was a collective masterpiece. And at the forefront of the offensive charge was the veteran who has been the team's steady hand for years, Kelsey Mitchell. For Mitchell, this was her very first playoff game on her home floor, a moment years in the making. With Clark's offensive gravity absent, the responsibility fell squarely on her shoulders to create, to score, and to command the attention of the Atlanta defense. She didn't just accept the burden, she embraced it. Mitchell delivered a game-high 19 points, but it was the timeliness of her baskets that truly broke Atlanta's back. She drained 4 three-pointers, each one feeling like a momentum-shifting dagger that pushed the lead from comfortable to insurmountable. She attacked the rim, drew defenders, and played with a poise that settled her entire team. This was her stage, and she performed brilliantly. Yet, in her post-game comments, her focus was not on her own performance, but on the collective. "Oh, I mean, it takes a village," Mitchell said, deflecting the praise. "I think we all piggyback off each other. It took a collective group effort to be able to be here." Her words captured the very ethos of the win. This was a team that understood that their strength, especially now, came not from one star, but from their unity. While Kelsey Mitchell was the offensive spearhead, the foundation of this victory was built in the paint, cemented by the unwavering presence of Aliyah Boston. On a night when Indiana needed an anchor, Boston became their entire coastline. She put up a stat line that was both productive and profound: 15 points, a pile of crucial rebounds, and 3 assists that spoke to her expanding vision on the floor. But her impact transcended the numbers. Facing a physical Atlanta front court that had given her problems in Game 1, particularly her matchup with Brianna Jones, Boston didn't just hold her own, she dictated the terms of engagement. She flipped the script entirely. Where Jones had found success in the first contest, she now found a wall. Boston used her strength to establish deep post position, her footwork to create space, and her sheer will to control the restricted area. She worked Jones out of her comfort zones, refusing to be moved, turning what was once an Atlanta advantage into a strategic dead end. The Dream's offense, so often initiated through the paint, was forced to operate on the perimeter, right where Indiana's swarming defense was waiting for them. This defensive prowess was complemented by a masterful offensive performance rooted in intelligence. Boston understood that with Clark off the floor, the offense would need a new fulcrum. She became that steadying force. Every time she caught the ball in the post, you could feel the Atlanta defense tense up, knowing they couldn't handle her one-on-one. The double teams came, just as she knew they would. But what used to be a challenge for a younger Boston has now become a weapon. Instead of forcing the issue, she read the defense with the calm precision of a veteran point guard, finding open cutters and swinging the ball to the weak side for open looks. Those double teams didn't slow Indiana down, they fueled them, creating the very openings that players like Kelsey Mitchell thrived on. This is the growth that has transformed Boston from a dominant rookie into a true franchise cornerstone. She proved that she can create her own gravity, a force that bends the defense and creates opportunities for everyone around her. She was the team's emotional and strategic center, the rock upon which their dominating performance was built. If Boston was the rock, Natasha Howard was the hammer. She chipped in a vital 12 points and battled for 5 rebounds, but her contribution felt bigger than the box score. Howard was the embodiment of the desperation Coach White had called for. She did the dirty work, fighting for position under the rim, absorbing contact, and providing the relentless physical edge that wears an opponent down over 40 minutes. In a shorthanded playoff game, those contributions are invaluable. She provided the scoring punch that kept the offense balanced and prevented Atlanta from focusing all their attention on Mitchell and Boston. It wasn't always pretty, but it was relentless, a constant source of pressure that ensured Indiana never let their foot off the gas. And then came the spark from the most unexpected of sources. With the rotation stretched thin, rookie Mikayla Timpson was called upon, and she delivered an electrifying performance that no one saw coming. In just 9 minutes of play, she poured in 9 points, playing with a fearless confidence that defied her experience. She attacked the basket, finished through contact, and brought an injection of pure energy at a critical juncture in the game. Those 9 points were not filler, they were a statement. They showed that even with 5 players down, this Fever team had hidden depths and a next woman up mentality that was very real. Timpson's explosion was a wild card that Atlanta had no answer for, a sudden burst of offense that further solidified Indiana's control. The cinematic climax, the single moment that shattered what little hope Atlanta had left, belonged to Lexi Hull. As the third quarter clock bled down to its final seconds, Hull caught the ball on the wing. Without hesitation, she rose up and drilled a pure, perfect three-pointer right as the buzzer sounded. Gainbridge Fieldhouse didn't just cheer, it erupted into a state of collective pandemonium. The roar that followed was the sound of nearly a decade of frustration being washed away by a wave of pure joy. That shot was more than just 3 points, it was an exclamation mark on a statement quarter, pushing the lead to an insurmountable 15. It was the dagger, the backbreaker, the message sent to the entire league that this was Indiana's night, their arena, and their series to take. All of this on-court brilliance set the stage for Aliyah Boston's post-game remarks, where she finally put the team's emotions into words. When asked what fueled the win, she didn't offer cliches. She was direct, proud, and honest. She called their defense a masterclass, a fitting description for a performance that had suffocated a potent offense. She described the locker room vibe as electric, the emotions as high, because this win was about more than just basketball. Our backs were definitely against the wall in this, Boston admitted, and we know that we've just been through so much this season that coming out with this win and then giving ourselves another chance in Game 3, emotions are high. You could hear the conviction in her voice. This was a leader speaking for a group that now understood its own strength. Even Caitlyn Clark, watching from afar, couldn't contain her excitement, sharing an emotional post about Hull's dagger that amplified the sense of unity. The players on the court and the stars on the sideline were one heartbeat, a collective force bound by a shared belief that had been forged in the fires of doubt and injustice. The echoes of that victory in Gainbridge Fieldhouse did more than just tie the series at 1 game apiece. They fundamentally altered the landscape of the matchup, rewriting the psychological script for both teams. Game 3 is everything, a winner-take-all battle that will now be fought on Atlanta's home floor. But the pressure, once squarely on the shoulders of the short-handed, beleaguered Indiana Fever, has now shifted dramatically. For Indiana, the test is to prove that their Game 2 dominance wasn't a fluke born of home-court emotion, but a new, sustainable identity that can travel. They must walk into the hostile environment of the Gateway Center Arena, a place designed to break the will of visiting teams and replicate the same disciplined intensity. The building will be loud, the stakes will be immense, and Atlanta will be playing with the desperation of a team fighting for its life. But that is precisely the kind of storm that this Indiana team has proven they are built to withstand. They have been forged in the fire of adversity all season long, and now they walk into the final battle not with fear, but with the quiet, dangerous confidence of a team that knows exactly who they are. Atlanta, meanwhile, faces a crisis of their own. The blueprint to beat them is no longer a secret, it was broadcast for the world to see. Their weaknesses were laid bare. Their inability to generate consistent offense when their perimeter shooting is taken away, their struggle to score in the paint against a locked-in Aliyah Boston, and their collapse in the face of relentless defensive pressure are all now on tape. They are the favorites at home, the team expected to hold serve and advance, and yet they are the ones who must now find answers. They are the ones reeling from a performance where their game plan was not just defeated, but systematically dismantled. That creates a different kind of pressure, the burden of expectation mixed with the seed of doubt. Indiana, by contrast, enters Game 3 with a palpable sense of freedom. They have already silenced the critics who said they couldn't win without Caitlyn Clark. They have already wiped away nearly a decade of postseason frustration. They have proven to themselves and to everyone else that their heart is strong enough to overcome any obstacle. That kind of earned confidence is a powerful weapon, a force that can quiet a hostile crowd and fuel a team through the toughest moments of an elimination game. The keys to victory for Indiana don't change just because the zip code does. The formula is established, and it is potent. Kelsey Mitchell's scoring provides the reliable offensive firepower, her ability to create her own shot a crucial asset when plays break down in a loud arena. In the paint, Aliyah Boston is the undeniable anchor. Her command of the post on both ends of the floor is the strategic centerpiece that forces Atlanta into uncomfortable adjustments and creates openings for everyone else. Natasha Howard will once again be called upon to be the enforcer, to bring the grit and physicality necessary to win the possession battle on the road. And then there is the X factor, the wild card that could once again tip the scales, Mikayla Timpson. A rookie who delivered 9 points in 9 minutes is no longer an unknown. The question now is whether she can summon that same fearless energy in the most hostile environment of her young career. If she can, Atlanta will have yet another problem they didn't account for. As she looked ahead to the final showdown, Coach Stephanie White exuded a calm certainty that spoke volumes about her team's mindset. "This is a group that's confidence has really never wavered," she stated, dismissing the idea that one win would fundamentally change their self-belief. "We've been in every kind of situation you can imagine, and we've been able to find ways to put ourselves in position to win, and this will be no different." Her words underscored the core truth of this team's journey. Their confidence isn't born from a single victory, it's the product of a season spent battling injuries, silencing doubt, and consistently proving their character. "If we maintain our attention to detail, if we continue the defensive effort that we had tonight and we shoot with confidence, we give ourselves a chance," she concluded. This group has continued to show their heart, their character, night in and night out. This win in Game 2 went far beyond the scoreboard. It was a reclamation of identity. After so many years of struggle, the Fever reminded their fans and the entire league what Indiana basketball represents: resilience, unbreakable unity, and a whole lot of grit. The dominant performance erased the doubts and reignited the promise of a bright future. Now, with the series on the line, Game 3 in Atlanta is more than just an elimination game. It is a chance to validate their rebirth, to change the trajectory of their franchise, and to prove, once and for all, that they belong among the WNBA's elite. They silenced the refs, they silenced the doubters, and now it's time to believe they can silence a city and shock the league.